Welcome. My name is Georgios Verbena, and this is a video about the 10th house meaning, spiritually, archetypally. At the end of this video, you will learn how to identify the 10th house in the world around you. What are the things that you see in the world that is out there, that are 10th house manifestations? It is through the world around us that we can come back to the center of where our own 10th house in our chart, since we all have one, expresses itself and what is it trying to achieve. And achieve is a key word for this house. This is the traditional meaning that you often see being associated with achievement, climbing a mountain. Here we meet the most outer part of ourself, because it is our professional life, our career, represented by the mountain, but also by tall buildings. As you can see in the corporate world, there are people wearing suits, people who have accomplished a lot of things simply by working hard for discipline, dedication, and a sense of duty. Duty to a higher purpose, which is materially in origin. A material purpose is defined through your 10th house, in which the archetype of a sign that the 10th house occupies is the representative of your public image. However people perceive you is through the midhaven in your professional life, the public persona of the public face. For no mountain is climbed without tales of our deeds and misdeeds. Our reputation is on the line. As this is the house of duty and responsibility, we are responsible for how we are being perceived and what kind of accomplishments and goals, what kind of status we achieve in this life. All the planets in the 10th house are representatives of our achievements to climb to the top, climbing the ladder, to go somewhere slowly, methodically, logically, dutifully, with discipline and commitment. This is a loyal house, ruled by Saturn. Henceforth, it is about the elite, government operations, people who are managing other people. But of course, people in elitist position, they usually have a prominent 10th house aspect of some kind. People that are recognized by others, they are recognized for a reason. Often we can find the reason with 10th house, Capricorn, Saturn, any placements associated to those three, in which we proclaim what is our duty, what is our responsibility to ourselves and to the public domain, in which we often find a person wanting to create something, like creating an empire. As the Emperor in Star Wars, Emperor Palpatine proclaims, I am the Senate, and I dictate my vision onto the world, so I can materially, through the earth element house, manifest my will, my design. For the empire is an extension of himself. And this is a big theme for 10th houses who find a place of belonging, not at home, in the 4th house, in Cancer. They don't find a place of dwelling. They don't find a place of centering or rooting. But they find a place of belonging through achievement that is personal, in which we have tremendous impact on other people, in the world as a whole. So here you can find joy through your professional life because you have achieved something that is worthy of recognition, worthy of being prestigious in your status. And that is why we also see the symbol of recognition in the hat that people wear when they come out fresh of the academy people that have graduated in America, where you see the certain cloak that these people wear with a certain hat on the head. And of course you see the same hat when you go into other more historical places in the past, when you explore China. And the Chinese emperor indeed has been known for wearing the very same hat, which is a symbol of recognition and authority. For it is the hat of Saturn, the ruler of the 10th house. The ruler of all government operations, of course. For it is the government that is in charge of the empire to structure, design, facilitate, and rule over its citizens. Throughout civilizations we find the symbol of the cube. It's a symbol of order, your order, that is imposed upon the world, for which there are the far corners of your empire, like the corners of a cube, through which you reach out and you take back stability and structure in my new empire, as Palpatine says in Star Wars Episode 3. This is a very iconic figure I like to use a lot, because Emperor Palpatine is an emperor. He is in charge of his empire, but how did he form his empire? How did he come into a position of power and status? Of course, there can be the lower manifestation of the ambitious ruler who manipulates and controls other people from the background. But this is not what the 10th house is known for. The 10th house is simply known for wanting to impose your order onto the world. And other people will recognize you. And Palpatine is simply an iconic figure because, like the judge that you find in the court, he wears a black robe. And he is the one imposing judgment onto its citizens. He is the one in charge of the law. He is the one in charge of religion, as well as politics. Don't let anybody tell you that religion and politics are separate matters, for they are both about imposing a kind of structure into the world. And that is why the ruler of the 10th house, Saturn, is often associated with religion from a more duty perspective, where responsibility is tied to fear of authority, fear of punishment. And this fear of punishment is a driver of the 10th house, a driver of your career, a driver that speaks to the sense of achieving, that if you don't achieve, if you don't get recognized, if you don't create some structure and stability in your life, if you don't have a plan that you're committed to, then you will be lost. And fear is the only result that we get when we are not in charge of our finances, not in charge of our domain, which is external. Instead of finding a place spiritually within, we find a place externally without. But even though it's not traditionally known to be a spiritual house, I have to say that there is spiritual meaning for every house, even this one. Even though the 10th house may be very materially to you from the outside, on closer inspection, it is about the mountain goat that climbs the mountain. And why is it trying so hard to achieve? Is it just trying to get away from fear? Is it just trying to be above the ground? Why does it want to go to the precipice, to the mountain peak? What is its spiritual goal? Because there must be a spiritual goal through which the material one will be manifest. It's the spiritual goal that comes first, even if people tell you that their goals are mainly materially. The reason for it is always within. The 10th house is about expanding your consciousness by making sure that when you are in a place of influence and prestige, in a position where you can have status and recognition, you are a person of certain status, and this status has to reflect your spiritual position, for it reflects you, no matter that it's other people who judge you, and that it's through public recognition that is very external. It is still an internal matter, for it shows you what you are capable of achieving. It shows what you are made of. And that is why the 10th house is also the ruler of your bones. Just like the ruling planet, Saturn. It rules the structure of not your physical life only, but the bones inside your body. And again, if you want to go deeper than those bones, which are already very deep, you have to go to the spiritual component. So what is the spiritual component? Well, I think it's good to look at the God Emperor of China. The Chinese emperor was regarded as a god, a ruler of religion and politics at the same time. For there cannot be one without the other. For there cannot be any rule worthy of following if it is not spiritual, if it is not meaningful, because we have already gone past the 9th house, which is the house of religion and philosophy. We are moving on to the 10th house, so building upon our meaning, our philosophy of life. It is the philosophy that fuels the fire of industry through which we can come forth and pass judgment onto the world. And it is this judgment which is also why Saturn is exalted in Libra, which is the scales in astrology. And you may think, oh, aren't you just reaching, going from one topic to the next? No, all these things are obviously connected. Obviously. As people wear suits when they talk about business, they also wear robes when they're in court, and they wear robes when they are a Chinese emperor, and they wear robes again when you go to church. And again, Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars, Jedi, Sith, these people, which are fictional figures, archetypal figures, are also wearing robes. So you see, the cloak is a 10th house thing. And it would be foolish to not see the obvious repetition of this. What does it mean? What is up with the suits? What is it for? Well, it shows people who they are, what their profession is, right? In order for people to know that you are dealing with a Jedi, you have to wear a robe. In order for people to know that you are a priest, you have to wear a robe. In order for people to know that you are a judge, you have to wear a robe. So simply, it's a status symbol, essentially. That is again why the people, when they graduate from the academy, are also wearing this. It's a ceremonial gown. So obviously, in the most material of the houses, the 10th house, an earth element house, even here we find ceremony and ritual, a spiritual component that cannot be ignored. And in tarot, we have the devil card, which is in charge of two figures, as the devil has his figures male and female in chains, because he dictates what the physical body is going to do. For the physical body is a servant to a deity, a goddess or a god, someone who tells you, if you serve me, if you give yourself to me, if you sell your body and you do your duty, then you will be rewarded. Achievement is simply the reward at the end of it. The achievement helps you to solidify your position so that you can rule over your career and you can get to the mountain top from which you have a higher perspective. Before you move on into the 11th house and the 12th house, which are spiritual houses which are transpersonal in nature, which are about the bigger picture, you have to go to the top because you need to be able to take care of all your physical matters. If your physical matters are not secured, if your career is not solid, then you will not be able to focus completely on your spiritual studies. You will not have a focus, not the discipline, not the commitment. You will have not the skill and not the maturity necessary to stick to a philosophy once you have found it. And this nature of commitment, the structure, you can only accomplish if you have a strong 10th house in the chart. And through a strong structure in your beliefs, strong commitments to yourself, to your life, to your career, to your achievements, to your goals, only through that and through that consistency in your status, that other people will always get more or less which can be expected of you, at least that which you want to give, that you can provide this, right? That you can provide an image to the world which is consistent and strong. Then also your body will be strong, your bones will be strong. Your ability to devote yourself and discipline yourself, to control your mind, will be amplified through all the physical work that you do. For the physical work is simply an extension of what your spirit needs to do to accomplish its path. So we have another stepping stone with a 10th house. We also have examples of the romance. Not romance. I mean the romance, right? The Roman emperor, who also had a senate. The senate is the inner council. But here in the 10th house, we also meet the outer council. It is other people surrounding us, authority figures that are helping us to find our place in the world, to have rulership with us, and who can also betray us, who have power over us. And that is why authority is so important, because without authority you are fragile, you are vulnerable. For how much power do you have if you don't have the skill to achieve it? So it's also about competence, how you use your talents in your career. Essentially, that is what you will be known for. Of course, there can also be the lower manifestation, in which a person creates a false image, a facade projected onto the world. But that is not what we are talking about here, with a general interpretation of this house. Well, the 10th house is like a place of power, a place of contemplation, meditation. It may not seem that way, but the 10th house has to reflect many times on what does he want in his life, how does he motivate himself, how does he stay committed to the path. To figure this out, it's not a small task. It requires great focus. And focus is also a Saturn-ruled manner, which is why it rules about the 10th house. But knowing all of this, it is paramount that you understand why you are in the career that you're in. This career has to be an extension of you. It cannot simply be some place where you go that is outside of yourself. No, it is a part of you, like every other house in the chart. It is personal, so it must be treated from a personal nature. Of course, some people, they may not have an Aries midheaven. like an Aries 10th house. They may have instead like a Libra 10th house, in which they would find it difficult to go through their personal ambition and pursue what it is that they want. Because we as a people, we are pulled by the outside. We are pulled by other people into what we should be doing. And as long as that's happening, it means that we are weak. We are not focused on what we want. We are like leaves blowing in the wind. And that is why the 10th house and the 4th house, the 4th house being the house of roots, the roots of a tree, which is about centering, anchoring, like the ship that gives anchor into the ocean, is one axis. The 10th house, 4th house, it may be opposite houses, but one entity. And that is why all the rules that apply to the 4th also apply to the 10th. If you are not rooted, not centered, then you will not succeed in your career. You will not be able to. It's about investment, personal investment, which is why we pave the way for the 11th house. Before we go into the house of cults, friendships, community work, we first have to take care of our own commitments, right? Like how people, they go to church and they say, I am committed to the Bible, I am committed to following the Bible rules. I'm committed to this religion, and that's the only reason I go to the church every week, every Sunday. But if you go to church after you have been committed to going there, you will meet the community. The community, the 11th house, is at the church, you see? So the 10th house is the foundation of a community. And that is why the emperor is the foundation of civilization. For civilization is the 11th house, but the foundation of the 11th house is the 10th house, the emperor, who has rules for the people to follow. Based on those rules, you have work, you have duty, you have shifts, tasks, goals, things that need to be done. This is all what the 10th house is about, essentially. And of course, there are many examples of that. There's also the example of the Ace of Pentacles. Once you have achieved the higher expression of this house, that means you have a steady relationship with your career. Happiness is achieved because you have achieved your goals, whatever it is that you wanted to do. Once you have that, Ace of Pentacles is yours. And of course, in order to get there, you need to take your time. Earth element is slow, steady. A business is something to be built. An empire is not built in a day. So you prepare yourself before taking action. You learn to face the challenges in your life. But to face challenges is a cardinal function in astrology. The 10th house is a cardinal house, for it is ruled by a cardinal sign, Capricorn. Now, why would this be cardinal? Well, if you look again at the emperor, Palpatine, but also the Chinese emperor, the Roman emperor, the Russians, the judge, all of these, they are the leaders. They are authority figures. They tell you what is done. They tell you what to do, basically. All cardinal houses tell you what to do. They pave the way for which the other houses, they kind of, they're structured around that. I don't want to use the word subordinate. I don't want to say, oh, the other houses are inferior, for they are not cardinal, for they are following the cardinal. But essentially, yes, the cardinal takes charge, you know. And that is why the cardinal house is a difficult house. All the cardinal houses are. The 10th house is about taking action, committed action through Earth. And it takes courage to do that. You need to have a certain fire inside of you to build the Earth. And one of the great motivators I find for this house is guilt. Guilt and fear. Very uncomfortable human primitive emotions that you need to build an empire. You need to be afraid of its downfall. If you are not afraid that your empire will be overrun by the barbarians that are surrounding you, that it will not be taken down by those who are jealous of you, or those who are doubting you, who bring doubt into your mind, if you are not making any boundaries between you and the Mongolians, like the wall of China, without a wall, your empire is sure to fall. And of course, to build a wall, and I'm not quoting Trump, but he is a president, and that is what, as you can see, leaders do as a theme. It requires a certain balls, to build a wall and to say, this is our border, you can't go past here. To dictate what other people can and cannot do is something you have to be able to do to succeed with any planet in the 10th house. If you cannot tell other people what they are supposed to be doing when you're operating in this house, in your career, if you cannot take charge, then you cannot climb the ladder, you cannot go anywhere, you cannot do anything. It's just a house that is built on sand, not on bones. Okay. So knowing all of this, you have a good definition of somebody who climbs a ladder, you know all the steps of how you can get to the top. And then, at the end, you can finally relax. And you can meditate on your spiritual studies. But the 10th house will always be a part of you. And if you have planets there, like the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus, all the asteroids, doesn't matter what you have. If you have anything there, then this will be the focus of that planet. A planet will try to achieve. A planet will try to build an empire somehow. If it's the moon that you have in the 10th, you have a strong attachment to your career. It's like the moon is the roots and the foundation. Foundation has to be strong. If you have a sun, however, the ego, the sense of self, then that means you can only feel good about yourself, and you can only be an authority, you can only illuminate your own life, you can only be an example to others to follow if you have a strong career or a strong status. Status symbols are also known for this house, but they are merely tools. And the true status is achieved through your peers. 11th house matters for the community, is what you're building towards, striving towards. For there cannot be any status without other people. So there's a natural relationship between the 10th and the 11th, which is why they are both under the domain of Saturn, you see. There's a reason why the Borg cube of the 11th house, the cube, is ruled by Saturn, and the borders of the empire, the 4 borders, are ruled by the same planet, because you have civilization and then you have your citizens. You cannot have one without the other. So of course they are essentially like one entity, but they're simply about a different priority, a different focus, One is air, social, 11th, and one is earth, material, 10th. So do you have the ambition Do you have a competence, a sense of responsibility, and the authority to embody the sign, the archetype, and the planets of your 10th house? If you have a 10th house in fire element, there's something about self-development that you need to work on through your career. This is something you're known for yourself. But if the 10th house is in water element, you are known for something that you give to others, somehow your ability to connect, to pull people back into their body. And if it's something of an earth element nature, then you are known for the things that you can build, things that you create value, pentacles, money, foundations. But if you are about air element, and you are about connections, networking, working with people together, working through other people, being a community figure, a people person. So you see, the 10th house is a very important house. And that's why the midhaven is also found in that house. If you want to look at the midhaven, you look at your public face. And yes, you have the ascendant, which is your one-to-one personal identity. But the public persona is just as important, isn't it? It may not be who you are up close and private, but it is who you are when you work with other people and you're trying to sell whatever value that you can provide to the community, to society. So, knowing all of this, you have an overview of what the 10th house is about. And I hope you like this video and you could find some value in it. And if you can, please leave a like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.